Hello and welcome to this episode of Real Talk, Real People and Real Business. My name's Leanne Peard and I am truly grateful to have the opportunity today to talk to Dr Sacheen Mobley, who is a divorce strategist and life planner, owner and CEO of Living and Loving Your Best Self. Is that right?
It is. Good job.
She offers a holistic approach to surviving divorce. The doctor comes from being a college professor of communication and relationships and is just living life. Dr. Sacheen is a published author, speaker, and consultant who enjoys helping women to get from fear to focused in every aspect of their lives. You can find her work on her two YouTube channels, her Facebook pages, Instagram, and Twitter. She is set to release a re-edited edition of her book, The Energy Suckers, The Four Faces of Narcissism in February this year, and Fear 2 Freedom course is now open for pre-enrollment for the January class beginning in a couple of weeks on January the 22nd. She's also available for interviews and personal consulting. So to learn more from Dr. Sacheen, I'd like to say hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Leanne. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you here. So tell me, Doctor, I know that divorce, I've been there. I think everybody's been there. It's definitely not a nice time. So how do you help women in that process or with your life planning skills?
That's a great question. And it's not an easy time. But I think I want to, before I answer that particular fine pointed question, I want to just back up and say the thing about divorce, it's so unique. For some women, it's actually a fairly easy time. But for most people, it's a long process of getting from, is this even something I'm going to do, to I'm going to do it, to I'm doing it till it's done. And so my job as a divorce strategist, as someone who herself has also been divorced, is to help women get past the fear that prevents them from making some logical and necessary changes so they can move through the divorce process without feeling as though they're losing everything, that they don't know how they're going to from the basics of how am I going to feed my kids. Like, those are the questions that keep women awake at night. And that can be very debilitating when you're just trying to figure out how to untangle yourself from a relationship. So my job as the strategist is to strategize, to help women actually take their fear, focus it in a way that gets them results on paper, and then help them slowly work the plan so that divorce isn't this thing that they're wearing as a mantle on their bodies that are weighing them down, but it's a process of getting to a better life.
And, that's interesting what you say there about fear, because we all experience fear, but it's how do we actually handle it, because it can actually immobilize us, can't it, and fear, from my understanding, is, well, what I use as an analogy is false expectations appearing real, because we think about the worst possible thing that hasn't even happened yet.
Right. Zig Ziglar actually made that definition of fear famous. He was the person that kind of credited with that. And so I've actually used that same idea, but I've turned it on its head. And what I like to teach my clients is, instead of us thinking of it as false expectations appearing real, let's look at this from a different perspective. Let's take fear and turn it on its head and ask ourselves, okay, I'm afraid in this moment. I am paralyzed, petrified. I have lots of anxiety. However, there are things that I can do. Number one, I can face the facts of the moment, the first F. Number two, I can look around and see if there's any evidence that actually supports my fear. There's the E. And I can acknowledge the fact that I'm going to be a basket case until I figure out what to do next. There's the A. And then finally, the R comes in. What resources do I actually have at my disposal that I could use to get rid of the fear? When we start looking at fear as a help and not a hindrance, I think we will move through it so much faster.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So let's just backtrack a little bit. I know I jumped straight into the meaty bit, but that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
So, Doctor, tell me, how did you go from doing your PhD PhD and then becoming divorced? Because I like the show to be about, you know, how did I make my first dollar, or how do I make my first $10,000? Because it's always a struggle for women as well, you know, moving into this business space. So can you share a little bit about your journey and how you went from beginning to where you are now?
Definitely. Well, this business sprang out of a desire to help myself as I was going through my divorce. And this would have been about 4 years ago now. And the first thing that I think really for me, when I was sitting down at my table and I had a sheath of papers out, and I've got all of the pros and cons, and I'm weighing things out, and I'm sad and I'm paralyzed because of the monumental ideas ahead of me of being a single mother, figuring out how to take care of myself and my child on one income, one set of parents, you become mom and dad kind of at the same time. And so, you know, I was moving into the place that would become our home after leaving my ex-husband for a year. Me and my son and my mother moved into this home, and was upstairs in my large bedroom of this home. And it's large only because I had a huge bed, because I had I took all of this furniture with me and I needed a big space. And I'm laying on this very large bed in this very large room. And I look over, and there's my computer, and there's the book, The Four Agreements. And I don't know if you've read this book, but it's by Don Miguel Ruiz. And it's an amazing book. It's very short. It's just called The Four Agreements. And I read it so many times. And I was like, you know, I don't want to read another book. And I just want to go to sleep, but I couldn't go to sleep. I grabbed the Four Agreements off the shelf, and I'm sitting on my side of my bed, and I'm reading the Four Agreements. And I thought, you know what, there are really 5 things that are important to me. There are 5 rules of my life that I just want to get straight right now. So I started sketching out these ideas about how to get past the moment. And what I realized is that the best way to get past the moment was to strategize. So I got out my school supplies, because I was a college professor. I have a doctorate in communication from the University of Missouri in Kansas City, Missouri. And I was a college professor for years. And so I'm like, I need to do what I do best. I need to plan my way, because you don't get through a PhD without planning your way through it. I need to plan my way out of this mess. I need to plan my way, you know, into the next phase, because it always feels like a mess, right? When we're contemplating divorce, we look around and we're like, this is a mess. I need to make sense of the chaos. And what happens is that we get caught in the chaos for so long. And because of that, we let so many things slide, that if we just go, okay, let me offer you a safety net. And what I realized, Leanne, was that a lot of women just don't have that safety net, that thing beneath them that they can go, hey, can someone just kind of help me bounce so I'm not falling? I'm not quite ready to fly yet, but I just need someone to help me start figuring it out. So I got out my school supplies, and 3M should actually pay me for as many Post-it notes as I use. But I had this big wall in my bedroom, and I just began putting Post-it notes on the wall with everything that I was afraid of on one side and everything that I hoped would be on the other. So I had fear on one side and hope on the other. And out of that grew this desire to say to myself, because there was no client at this point. There was just me in my bedroom in the middle of a small town in Washington State, going, if I had to do anything, I would pick something from the hope side, or I could pick something from the fear side.
Yeah.
And what I began to do was go, okay, all of those things that I'm so afraid of are real, but they're not necessarily factual. And all the stuff on the hope side may not be real yet, but that's actually more factual, because I can do something about those things. And that's what started living and loving your best. Because what I discovered about myself was, all I really wanted was to live my best life and love the journey. And I thought, that's what any woman wants post-divorce, right? I just want to live a good life, and I just want to enjoy myself. So how can I do that and get a divorce and raise a kid and start a business and, which is where the life planning part comes in, because it's not just about the divorce, it's also about the life after the divorce. That's just as important as the divorce process. So that's how I started, in my bedroom with a bunch of Post-it notes all over the wall.
That has to be the most amazing and powerful story that I've heard to date. Only because
thank you.
because it's such a simple thing. I'm sitting there listening to you going, wow, post-it notes, we have a choice. Do I stay in this space over here, or do I focus on this space instead of being consumed in all the stuff that we're
Yes.
That is just awesome.
To this day, if you come into my office, you will see a wall that tends to be full of various colors of Post-its because it works. I'm a visual learner. I like to see my options ahead of me, but I also felt like they were so colorful. And in the moment, everything felt so gray and so drab and so lifeless that I was like, I'm just going to make this rainbow on my wall. And that rainbow was kind of the yellow brick road of optimism, right? It was like, oh, look, I can just create this pathway and I can follow it and see where it leads me.
Perfect. That is so cool. I'm just going to stop there for a minute. I'll get you to take your earrings out because I'm hearing scratching.
Yep. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. There you go.
That's cool. Thank you. Because I want it to be really good. Anyway, so let's get back into the flow.
Okay.
So that is an amazing technique. And I think, Doctor, that's a technique that anybody can use regardless of what is going on with their life. Anybody.
Yeah.
But more impact, and it's more empowering for women to use this in a situation of divorce and life planning. Yeah.
Yes. I tell my clients, the first thing that we need to do is figure out where you are. Where are you? And if you take, I hand you a stack of Post-its, I say, go get a stack of Post-its. Just write down, where are you? Literally, I am afraid. I am, terrified that I'm going to not have enough money. I am afraid of what people might think. I'm afraid that I'll lose in the divorce. So one of the things I hear a lot is, I'm just afraid I won't be able to make it. I just won't be able to make it. I don't know how to do this on my own. We write everything down. And when you start to see a map of it's like a map of your emotions and a map of your soul in some ways, then you can start to take a little bit of like, okay, that's okay, it's out now. I can look at it and say, okay, that's what I'm afraid of. Now, how do I solve the problem? And we just work through that. We just begin to work piece by piece, chunk by chunk, and we climb the mountain together. And at some point, I like to say, at some point, you're going to walk away from me, and that is going to be the happiest day of my life, because that means that you have reached the point in the mountain, a point in that journey where you no longer need me. And that's a beautiful moment for a coach.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
You were recently divorced, struggling with your own, issues and fears, starting a business, identifying,
and a single mother.
And a single mother, yes, and worked out how you can strategize yourself to move forward. Then how did you start to let people know that this was now your business?
So I started my business. My business has taken many iterations. And so the first thing I would say to women, entrepreneurs especially, is if your business morphs and changes, just roll with it. You will find your footing and you'll find your voice. So my initial business began as, if you look at my Facebook page, it says the metaphysical goddess, because I began teaching concepts of astrology because that's what I'm good at and that's what I knew. So my first clients were women who wanted their natal charts read. And it just so happened that they also wanted to talk about their relationship.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of how it began. And it was women who were like at a transition point in their life who also wanted to talk about their relationship. And so that's how my business really got off the ground. The divorce strategy and planning consulting part, I just started about 6 months ago, really focusing there because that seems where everyone wants to go. But for the longest time, I was a metaphysical coach, coaching women through life transitions, and clients would find me.
Awesome. And you're so right. I know from my own business and many women that I talk to, we start out doing one thing. I think the issue is that we become so fixated on, this is what I'm doing. And when we start growing and moving, I can only speak for myself. I felt like I was always changing and adapting and coming up with new ideas. But in actual fact, that was the growth process of my journey in business, because you might start out thinking this is my client, but you attract this type of client. You've got to move to where you're needed, or your skill is, I'm not sure, your skill is warranted, I suppose.
Yes. Most of my coaching is life planning. Some of it is also divorce strategy. But the majority of my coaching at this point is life planning, helping my clients work through the moments. We work the FEAR acronym, the FEAR that I was talking about earlier. I work through clients with that a lot, talking about, let's not focus on the fear. Let's focus on the facts, the evidence, and your emotions, and then we'll talk about the resources, and we'll plan this out. Because planning is what I'm very good at. I'm also good at reading the situation and kind of seeing the zebra amongst the elk. So, which is helpful when you have clients who can only see all the elk and don't see the zebra in the middle. They can't really see the detail that they really need to see. That's what I'm really good at.
And that's the power of coaching. We're so self-consumed. Even if we don't have an issue, we're still self-consumed about what's going on for us. And a coach looks in from a different perspective and can see exactly what's going on.
Yes. So that morphing of the business into divorce strategist is because one of the things that I really am passionate about is that in divorce, so many women end up, how do I put this delicately, end up with the short end of the stick. And a lot of that is because in the process of divorce, we feel very powerless because we are so ready to be free, but also so not ready to let go of who we think we are in that process. And so my job is to come in and I feel very passionate about it, to come in and say, listen, it is okay that you don't want to, that this isn't where you thought you were going to be, but this is where we are.
Yeah.
And if you want the life that you see on the other side, then I'm here to help you move forward to get that. And in the process, not give away your power and not give away everything because you feel guilty, not give away so much and do so much overboard that you leave yourself in a position of weakness and unable to actually get started on the other side. Because a lot of women do that because they're like, I feel guilty. What about if I want the kids to know that I didn't attempt to do this and to do that? And they give away a lot of their power, and it makes it really difficult to begin to take those first steps after the divorce.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think also, I remember when I went through my second one. Let's not go there. But anyway, I've had plenty of practice. I remember someone very close to me said, when I told them, they said, wow, congratulations. And I was dumbstruck because I thought, why would you say that to me? And she said, no, congratulations. You, meaning in big letters, are about to step into a new era of your life that's all about you. And I went, wow, that was so powerful.
Yes. And, I don't want to belittle the process that we all go through. I mean, I've been married twice, so I understand. But I think that the idea behind marriage has changed so much, and the idea of who we are and what we come to expect has changed so much, but the divorce process really hasn't.
No.
It really is. It's kind of stuck in a time warp. And I want to break that apart and because I'm going to be perfectly frank. By the time I want a divorce, I had already divorced in my head. I was already gone. And so it was just the mechanics that were left. I had done the grieving. Yeah. I'd done all of the necessary mental work. I just had to do the survival part. I had to figure out the survival part. And I think a lot of women are very caught up in the 1950s version of divorce that says, you're going to end up broke, living out of your car with 3 kids, never going to be able to do anything. Your whole life is over because you are a divorced woman. It's 2019. Yeah. Divorced women are rocking the world and ruling the universe and doing so many amazing things. And yet the narrative holds women in place to say, no, but that's not going to be you. And so what I hear from women is, but can I really do it? Can I really make it? And my job is to say, yes, you can. Because sometimes really that's all people need is someone to give them permission to be okay with their choice.
Absolutely. That is so true. Look, I think your work is absolutely amazing and definitely needed. There's so many other professionals out there on the other side of divorce, as you said, that, really, and I don't want to say it either, and I don't want to be too frank, but sometimes they're just lining their own pockets and not
Hmm.
actually looking at the people that are involved and the
Yes,
emotional stress
yes,
that both parties and children are going through. So to have that
yes.
empowerment for the women, to me,
Hmm.
makes sense that, and if you are single and not doing shared custody or whatever, it gives that woman more power to be at peace and then, raise the children and give them that sanctuary that they deserve in the home environment.
Oh, definitely, Leanne. And you bring up a really good point. And a happy home is the best home for a child. And that happiness is something that I am preaching about right now. And that happy means happy. It means just that. It doesn't mean enduring the pain because you're married. It doesn't mean muscling, powering through for the kid. It means happy.
Yeah.
Because what we end up doing is passing on generational dysfunction and generational pain
Yes.
when we could be passing on generational happiness and generational bliss and caring and fun. And the statistics are very clear. Children bounce back from divorce much easier and have a much healthier state of mind and a much healthier and productive life than children whose parents are married and who are just abysmally unhappy. I mean, the statistics are just clear on that. And I know that's hard to hear, and many folks push back against me when I say that as well, but the best home for kids is a home with mom and dad. Not if mom and dad hate each other.
No,
That's not true. Developmentally, that's simply not true.
I agree totally. I agree totally. A child cannot prosper or be happy when it's surrounded by parents that are unhappy.
Exactly. And
Mm,
kids do better in happy homes, regardless of who's in that home. It'd be nice if it was one or both parents, but kids, especially under the age of 3, bounce back the fastest. The older they get, it takes them a little bit longer because they have more of a memory, more of a sense of two parents, but they do bounce back. But unequivocally, the data is clear. If you get a divorce and you can be happy on the other side of that, your kids will thrive. To me,
yeah,
that's the only goal we need.
absolutely. So tell me, Doctor, without sort of getting into too much detail, but how do you, and I think you've answered this already in your strategy, but I'd just
Okay.
like to reiterate it. So how did you survive in business then? With everything else that was going on, what would be your number one tip to women out there in business on how to manage all of this stuff that's going on?
It's a great question. And I hired a coach almost immediately because I didn't know anything about business. All I knew was that I was a single mother, college professor, and I wasn't going to make enough money. Bottom line, I wasn't going to make enough money to keep my child in the way that I wanted him to be kept. And so I knew I had a brain to do many things. I did not have a business brain. So the best and number one advice I would give to anyone is fill in what you don't know.
Yeah,
You cannot do it all. You can't read enough books to learn some of the things that are out there. You can Google to your heart's content. You can take as many notes as you want to, but sometimes you just need someone who's been there before you.
yeah.
So get help.
Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant advice. So, Doctor, before we wrap up today, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you really feel like the audience needs to hear today?
Oh my gosh, no, I think you've kind of pulled out my story and kind of what I do. I will just say that it is it is one of the joys of my life to be able to work with people in their darkest moment. And I take that very seriously, the work that I do. But I am not that kind of person who you're going to call me and I'm going to be your Debbie Downer and I'm going to let you um, stay in that moment because my philosophy is this: we are here to live our best life and love everything that we can about it. And therefore, I just want people to do that. And I am happy to help you do it. And if I can't, I'll refer you to somebody who can.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I really, 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 from the bottom of my heart, love the way that you're empowering women in such a time of need. And I think for a lot of us too, it goes back to when we are at that space, we don't know who to reach out to, really.
Right.
And there's not, obviously, this is the first time I've heard of somebody doing what you do. It's, it doesn't seem to be that there are many people filling this void for us when we are going through this time or this change in our life.
There was no one for me. That's why I decided I would be that someone.
Congratulations to you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leanne. This was so great. Thank you so much.
Well, before we go, I know that you've got a few things that we said earlier in the introduction that are coming up. So you've got your course. So tell us a little bit about that course.
So Fear to Freedom is my brand new course. I just finished it. It's been quite a whirlwind December around here. But Fear to Freedom really takes that concept of fear and allows me to teach it over the course of 3 months. And it's a group course that looks at everything from how to structure your finances, to how to structure your mindset, to how to structure your new relationships on the other side of divorce. And the goal of the course over the course of time is to allow my students to work through a holistic pathway to the life that they want to have after the divorce. Now, it's geared towards divorced women, but it is open to also my life planning students. But really the core of the course is simply, I'm going to help you figure out the life that you want to live. I'm going to help you plan for that life. And at the end of 3 months, you're going to go out there and live it. And you're going to enjoy every moment of the process.
Awesome. So how do people find you to pre-register for this course?
The enrollment is by contact. I'm taking a very small cohort because it is the first iteration of it. So you need to contact me. It's support@SacheenMobley.com is my email address to get on the wait list, which is almost full. And then once the course launches, I will be sending out all the necessary information to get fully registered.
Fantastic. And your books, where do we get a copy of your books that are being launched?
Well, The Energy Suckers, I wrote this last year, and I had such a funny story. So if you've got 2 more seconds, I have to tell this very funny story. I wrote this book, and I didn't have a title for it. So I was talking to I have a business accountability partner. That's another thing. Get yourself a business buddy. If you don't have a business buddy, get yourself a business buddy, somebody you can bounce ideas off of, who can pull you down from the cliff when the bills are due and there's not enough money and there's too much month left. Get yourself that person. And anyway, she and I were talking about the various kinds of people that come into your life or that are in your life that just drive you crazy. And I said, yes, they're like vampires. And she said, not vampires. We don't want to talk vampires. Everybody's talking vampires. And so she said, how about we just say they suck the life out of you? And I'm like, I don't think that Amazon's going to buy that. So we can't put suck out there, but then we'd like, but we could put suckers. So it was just this very funny, this is what a glass of wine and a business buddy will get you. It's the title of a book called The Energy Suckers. So I wrote the first edition last year. It's going through a revamping, really focusing on the 4 faces of narcissism. And the idea is very simple. There are 4 kinds of people that come into our life that are determined to destroy us. And chances are, you know one of them, and unfortunately, you might be one of them. So that's what I've written about, and that is set for release February, edition 2, sorry. Second edition of that is set for release. But if you want to pick up the very first edition of that, it is on my website, which is SacheenMobley.com. Very simple.
Awesome. Fantastic. I mean, I just love energy, and I could talk to you all day in that whole
I know
sphere of energy. And you talk about energy suckers, but there's also energy creators. I don't even know if that's a title.
Yes.
And I'll just share a really quick story a game that my daughter and I discovered when we would go shopping. So we would go shopping and we would walk into a store that was empty, and we would be looking for something, and then all of a sudden the store would be full. And I would look at her, and after about half a dozen times, I turned to her and I said, honey, are we doing this? Or why are all these people in here when we wanted to shop in the store alone? So we used to make a game of it. We'd walk through the mall and we'd go, there's an empty shop. Let's just go in there and browse and see what happens. Every time that we do that, the shop fills up, So, there's,
awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to do more research on it, but there's energy suckers that take the life out of us. And I think there's people like yourself that, put out that high vibration, and myself.
Yes, I do. Yes.
that allows people to come in and experience the good energy as well.
So there are those energy vampires, right, that just kind of leech onto us and drive and drain us dry, but there are also the energy amplifiers that kind of plug in, that it's like they plug in and we go, wow, I feel so much better already. And I think that's what you're describing, is that you walk into a store and you kind of plug into the energy, and the crowds come because it's like, that feels good. Let's go over there. So that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I've never told that to anybody before, but here we are live now and I'm sharing it. So wow.
It's what happens when two energy amplifiers get together.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much. I will thank you for joining me on the show. Thank you for having a real life conversation with me. I think it's really important that, you know, there's so much information out there, you know, about how to go from $0 to $1 million, but in real talk with real people, you're not going to hit $1 million in a year. You know, you might hit $1,000, you might hit $10,000. But the struggle is real for us in business. So thank you so much for sharing your business, which is absolutely amazing. And also taking the time tonight, because you are on the other side of the world.
I am.
It is late, so I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you so much, Leanne, and thank you for everyone who watches and listens to this. I really appreciate giving the chance to talk about my business and what I love to do. So yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Great to have you. We'll talk to you soon, and I'll make sure I put the links down below the YouTube video, or if you're listening to the podcast, I'll make sure that the link is there so that you can hang out with Dr. Sacheen Mobley and check out her new course or have a look at her book. So bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you. That was so much fun.
It was. That was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So if you need to follow up with me on anything, just shoot me an email and we can do whatever.
I will do. So you're part of the group, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. So when it goes live, I'll tag you in it so that you can share it, you know, with the different links.
Perfect.
And I'm hoping that the group, there's only about 28 people in there, but I'm hoping that they will get on board and we can all start even just downloading each other's interviews so that it helps them reach higher. If there's any particular keywords that you want used, like for your YouTube channel, or that you do use, if you flick them over to me on an email, then I'll make sure that I put them into the video so that it ranks for your business, yeah?
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if you're looking for guests there, as we were talking, like there's at least 2 or 3 women who I think you would love.
Oh,
so,
send them my way, because I put the post on the group, and I mean, I honestly had my diary full this morning, but I had 5, 6 today, and 4 of them have cancelled. So there's plenty of room.
Okay.
Yeah, send them over.
Okay. I definitely will. I was like, Steph and Kimber. Yeah, I'll just send you their emails.
Yeah, or just you know, send me a message on Facebook or do a group conversation or something, and I'll just invite them to the group. That might
I can do that too. Yeah, that might be easier.
Yeah, invite them to the group, and then I can give them a link. Well, the link's already in the group to actually set a time. So that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Oh, gosh, I think you'll love, like Mary does crystal work and with animals. Oh, there's so many great women, and you would just love them.
Actually, I was going to ask you, do you still do your astrology readings?
I do. It's part of my bread and butter.
Yeah, right. So can I ask what you charge for that, and how what's the process for that?
So I haven't done a full-on reading for a while, just so I've been working this business thing. But usually I do an hour of shamanic astrology natal chart reading. I ask that clients who book with me just give me, I need your birth date, your name, date, place, and everything else. We spend about an hour. I charge $150 US.
Okay, cool, awesome. Because I did one a couple of years ago, and I was so impressed. Everything that she said just lined up. So I'm due to do another one.
You are due. Yeah. So if you want to negotiate that, let me know. This was so much fun, Leanne. I mean, I had a blast.
Oh, thank you. I always hope that it's fun. I always have so much fun. So it's always good to know you did too.
I did. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, ma'am.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.